there is still a lot of debate in regards to who exactly is the villain behind everything going on in She-Hulk, and the evidence seems to be pretty clear. So let's go over all the evidence we have and why it is in fact the leader. So one of the things that's very important when it comes to She-Hulk is of course the through line that starts in the very first episode that carries throughout the rest of the season, and that's the importance of just how dangerous a drop of blood from a Hulk can be. Bruce is very adamant that She-Hulk, aka Jen, be very careful, because if this blood falls into the wrong hands, it could be disastrous. And as we've seen before, and as we saw in She-Hulk, the very next thing that they deal with is the Abomination. Now, of course, the Abomination is the result of the super soldier serum experiment that Bruce Banner was working on to obviously try to recreate the super soldier, but he infused his with Gamma. He ended up becoming the Hulk. This directly resulted in two villains being created. One, the Abomination. Second, the leader, who we haven't seen yet. Now, this is what's important to this season and She-Hulk as an overall plot point. Because again, the blood ties into the same through line and plot line that we saw play out from Captain America into Incredible Hulk, but also the fact that a pretty big associative team, the Wrecking Crew, who's associated with the leader, goes after Jen and tries to get her blood. Most importantly, in the most recent episode, we see the website Intelligentsia, which again, in the comics, is a part of the leader's ultimate scheme. Now, in the comics, it's also connected to MODOK, but that's not going to be explored here because MODOK isn't in this. He's in Quantumania. So if you look at the evidence, everything so far is pointing at the leader. Now, the other big piece of evidence here is obviously the end of the most recent episode, where we see the blood vial, and that they've been able to extract a piece of Jen's blood. It's packed up and it's being sent off. Again, this goes directly in a connective way to the Incredible Hulk. A direct connection can be made between the two, because when we see the Incredible Hulk, it was Mr. Blue, aka the leader. He was trying to work on Bruce's blood, and he was, well, in hopes of using this blood to, again, build some sort of army and eventually, hopefully, enhance more people. That's exactly what's happening here. It's the same experiment. He's never abandoned his plan. Now, if that's not enough evidence, the biggest evidence I can present you with, which is essentially the ace in the hole, this is the one, this is all the proof you need, that the leader will be revealed to be the main villain behind everything. That's the return of the villain, the return of the leader. Recently, they announced the villain of Captain America New World Order is going to be the leader. But why did they announce this? What's the point? There was no point. If that's the case, they would have announced villains for some of the other films, right? You guys see what I'm saying? They announced plenty of other content coming. They didn't mention any of the additional things. So why spoil this? Well, the same reason that they spoiled the casting of Kang for Quantumania. It's because the character is appearing somewhere ahead of their debut in Quantumania. Kang appeared in Loki. The leader is set to return at the end of She-Hulk to set up his more dominant street-level side of things that's going to connect to super soldiers and the effects of the Captain America super soldier serum and what it's done to the world. Again, this directly connects to the plotline, the main plotline of Captain America, the First Avenger, and also deeply connects to the backstory and the plot of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And in this way, you also connect it to Thunderbolt Ross, who again is the Red Hulk, but we don't know what their plans are now with the Red Hulk, considering that the actor passed away, and they might just be doing something completely different now in terms of trying to go in a different direction. But if you just watch everything that I explained, I think you start to understand why it has to be the leader. And if it's not, then it all sort of feels for nothing. And, well, whatever twist it ends up being, like Titania was behind it all, ends up falling flat on its face, and then it's completely going to derail the season. So It has to be, though,